In this lecture, we will be adding 3D game objects. So inside of Unity, the first step you want to do is get out of the 2D mode. And the only way to get out of the 2D mode is to create a 3D project. So that's how Unity keeps the 2D stuff and 3D stuff separate, by creating new projects. So click on File, and then, by the way, make sure you save your scene or press Ctrl S or Command S, and then go to File, New Project. Or you can also open a project if you already have a 3D project. That's how you would do that. All right, once you click on Open Project, your next step is to create the project. I'm sorry, so I said New Project, yes. You can select 3D and call this one My 3D Project. And then make sure you go somewhere that you remember where you saved. So I'm going to save it at the same spot where I have my first project. Okay? And again, just create project. And it says the scene hasn't been modified, so I want to save the one from the previous project. Yes. All right, so now it's going to close the project and open the new project. And you guys should be familiar with the interface here. It's the exact interface that the one we had earlier. The only difference is inside of the game, you can actually see a field of view compared to the 2D where it was just a blank red screen or blue screen. Now you have a field of view with a skybox. It's like it has some sky too. And the reason why we see that is because the camera has it. If you click on main camera, it says inside of the inspector that the main camera has a blue background, but it also has a skybox. If you don't want a skybox, you can click on solid color, and then it's just like it was in 2D. However, it's kind of ugly, and it's hard to see that we actually are in a 3D game, right? So go back to skybox. It's definitely the best. All right. Now that that's what we have, let's add the 3D objects. You should know how to add 3D objects because I showed you earlier a little glimpse of it. Click on Game Object, then go to 3D Object, and you can add any of these objects. Now I'm going to go quickly through all of them. The first 5 ones, the cube, the sphere, the capsule, the cylinder, the plane, and the quad, are exactly what it says they are. And let's not play them. We know what a cube is. So if you click on cube, you will get a cube, right? And you can actually see the cube in your scene, right? So you can play with the size. You guys already know how to do this. You can just click on that cube, and then once you have the cube selected, you can click on the tools to expand it. And if you try to expand, this is not going to work because you need to be inside of the scene tab. And now you can make the cube bigger or smaller. And if I make it bigger, guess what? When you go to the game, you see a bigger cube. All right, so I'm going to disable it. How do you disable the cube? Well, you select it and you go to the inspector and uncheck it. So it's already here, but it's disabled. Now let's add another object. Click on Game Object, 3D Object, Sphere. Again, you guys know what a sphere is. It's just basically a round ball. That's all it is. I'm not going to go into many details. There isn't much to say about it. Anything you can change on a cube, you can change on the sphere. The next one is the capsule. And as you can see, the capsule is just like a pill. Again, it's a sphere with a cylinder at in the center. All right. And the next one is let me just disable this one so that it's easier to see. 3D object, cylinder. Well, it's just a tube, right? And the next one is the plane. Well, the plane is actually useful. The other ones are not so useful, but the plane is actually useful because you can actually put stuff on top of it, and it gives you also a good idea of how far are objects on top of each other. So if I put the cube back and if I put the sphere back, I can have them. I can actually have them that are make sure that they are both touching and they're like on the same floor. Okay, so that's how you would do. You would add a cylinder to be able to see that, and add a plane below. All right. So now I can actually see that the sphere needs to go up a little bit. Okay, and now we can actually see both of them. All right. So so that's pretty much all you need to do for those 3 objects. Now a quad. Here is a quad. And as you can see, you don't see anything with the quad. And the reason why is that you need to add some features to the quad to be able to see something. You need to add a material so that we can actually see them, and so on. So I usually avoid the quad myself, and I would advise you to avoid it because the rest of the game objects can actually do what the quad does. Alright, so earlier I just told you that these objects are not that useful. They're good just for prototyping, that's it. If you want to make a game, you need something that's more advanced than this, and you need to import objects. Alright, so at some point I will show you how to import objects. Okay, so the last object that you can see is a ragdoll. Now, to be able to do the ragdoll, we need to add an actual human body or some kind of a humanoid body. So we're not going to go into this. Then you have a terrain. Okay, terrain can be a whole course on its own, and there are actually whole courses on terrain. And as you can see, as soon as I did this, then I have a huge piece of land that got created. And now you can play with the inspector and change the terrain and like put some places, some type up and down. But I'm not going to go into details of the terrain for now. And by the way, again, you don't have to use the terrain tool to create a terrain. You can just import a model that you got from the internet. Okay. The next game object that you need to see in the 3D object is a tree. Now, a tree is just like it is. You need to have a terrain to be able to add a tree. So if you click on tree, not much will happen because we don't have a terrain. Okay, so there's just like a random tree in the center. But what you need to do is to actually add the terrain to be able to add the tree. And the tree will know where to go. Okay, that's the beauty of the terrain. But let's not go into the tree details. You can modify the tree as you wish. And the final one is the wind zone. No need to do a wind zone right now. That works for the tree. So if you have no tree, there's no wind zone, no need. But one that's important is a 3D text. So 3D text is actually text that you have inside of the game. And do not misunderstand the 3D text and the 2D text. So this is the text of the user that's inside of the game. This is not the text that's on the heads on display. This is not the text of like a menu interface. All right? So usually you would use something different for that. And I will get into this in the future. All right, so that's all you need to know for the 3D objects. Now, these shapes are very primitive, but you can easily add them together to make some more interesting shapes. For example, you can take 2 spheres. So I can have this sphere and just duplicate the sphere. Now you could ask me, how do you duplicate the sphere? Well, you can right click and click on duplicate, right? And that would add a second sphere. Now you're not going to see the second sphere because it's on the exact same spot or where that sphere is. So you need to press W to move it. Okay, and as you can see, you can make more interesting shapes. You can select the cube, press on R to make it smaller, and then maybe make it smaller only in one direction. Okay, and make it bigger here. And as you can see, you can make more interesting shapes. All right, so that's all you need to know right now for this specific, very simple 3D game objects. See you guys in the next lecture.